Hi everyone, my name is Glenda Sparling with SureFit Designs, and in this short video we're going to take a look at a situation that sometimes occurs for some of you ladies when you're working with your pants pattern, and that is a flat back side. If we take a look at these particular photographs, these are photographs that a customer sent me. You can see that the front of her pants is fitting very, very well, the pants hang well, and the crotch fits well. But as we take a look at the back, she's got what I call the baggies underneath her flat back side. And of course, as we take a look at the side seam, it also is hanging straight, but you can see the folds going into right underneath her buttocks. Well, with SureFit Designs, we show you with one of our minor tune-ups how to remove those baggies underneath your backside. And that's actually on page 15 and it's number 11. There's actually two different instructions there, and the second instruction, which shows you how to put the princess seam up the center of the back of the leg, is always going to be your best choice, because then you've got that seam to do the refinement on and to nip that seam in where you need to, where you're very flat. Now in the instruction book it shows you how to do the vertical fisheye dart. Today I'm going to show you how to do the horizontal fisheye dart, and then we'll take a look at the pants on this same body after she had done that refinement. Because you know, with SureFit Designs we always have solutions for your issues and can get you the very best fit possible. So let's take a look at how to do that. What you're seeing here is your pants pattern like it would be drawn out at this stage. So in other words, you're seeing the cutting line as well as the stitching line. The first thing that you need to do is extend the grain line straight up from the existing grain line, because as the grain line stands right now, that is the center of the back of the pant pattern. So it's going to go straight up. And I'm doing this in a different color so that you can see it a little bit more clearly. Then you'll notice that the dart is not over top of that grain line. So I'm going to move that. That's the first thing that you need to do. The dart in the back of the pant is approximately 1 inch wide. So it means that you're going to move it over in this manner. You make a 1/2 inch mark on one side of the grain line marking and a 1/2 inch dot on the other side. And now I just need to make a mark. I'll just go across like this at the same level, because you know that dart fits you fairly well. And so there's the tip of the dart, and you join the tip to the green line at the top and the tip of the dart to the other green line, green marking that you did, and that has repositioned your dart, and that means you're not going to use this one at all. Then the next thing, there's one other thing I want to do with this dart. We are going to just smooth that curvature out at this dart tip, because that whole center line is going to get cut and become a seam. And so just to smooth that so it fits you real well we'll go like this with the designing stylus, and you can see that that slight curvature is just going to be a lot easier to sew and to fit to your body. And then the next thing we're going to do is take a look at this other line that I've drawn, which is AB. And this one is approximately where the baggies are underneath your butt. And you could have measured from your waist down to that area, and then draw your line straight across, and it needs to be perpendicular to the straight of grain. And of course I've marked that as AB. And then what I'm going to do is cut on the side of the dart until I get to the grain line, and then I'll just cut all the way down like this. And then on the other side of the dart I'm going to cut that out as well, because this dart shape is going to get sewn into the seam as you start sewing it up for your body. So you can see as that comes together it'll form the dart shape. Then we need to cut from, on this pink line, from there to A, and from that center spot to B. Now, because A and B are going to become pivotal points, you do need to stabilize that with a piece of tape. I've already done that on letter B. And then you cut into that side seam because you need that to pivot. All right, and then we'll cut like this up to B. And you know, before I go any further, there is one other thing that I want to do. And that is I'm going to mark how much we're going to overlap this fisheye dart. Now, don't start off by taking out a really, really wide dart. I know you can pinch at the back and you can actually pin fit this out in your fabric, but it seems like less is more in this situation, and you definitely want to test this. So I'd recommend starting off with about an overlap of anywhere from 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch, which means that you're going to have 1/2 to about 5/8 of an inch of a removal of that space in your pattern. And you want to have extended that across like this. But pin fitting it out in the back side of your body is a good idea. First of all, it does give you an overall idea of what to fold out here. And then I need to turn this in order to cut this properly, and then I'll line it all back up again. Okay, I've cut up to point A, and there we go. Now, the next thing that you're going to do is overlap and remove that bagginess from underneath your buttocks, and it will look like that. So I'm lining up my markers, and you can see what's happening is it's throwing off the grain line up here, and we'll come back and deal with that in a moment. And then I'll fold out the dart on this side. So you can see that I'm folding out in the center of the back of your leg. I'm folding out that required fullness, but it's going to nothing at the side seams. Now, if I left it just like this, then you can see your hem is going crooked. It's going off grain. So what we're going to do is reestablish the grain line, and that needs to be parallel to this straight of grain. And when you're on a grain board like this, it's really easy. So you can just take your designing stylus, and I've just come 2 inches in from that straight of grain, and I'm going to draw this in pink again so that you can really see that. And you can see how that it's straightened and put the grain line going up into the top portion of your pants, and that ensures that your hemline is going to be on the grain of the fabric, and I'll do the same thing on this side. You do need to establish that on both sides because you are going to be laying this out obviously as 2 separate patterns now. And there's the grain line on this side. Now, when you go to sew this together, now you can, it's taking in that fullness in the back of your body, which you didn't require. Now remember, we're going to be sewing this together. So the next thing that we must do is place a piece of tracing vellum underneath both sides, and you know what needs to happen. We need to add our 5/8 inch seam allowances in order to sew it out, in order to sew it together. And we'll put vellum on the other side, like this. And you know how easy it is to add seam allowances. You simply take your designing stylus, and let's start down in that straight area first of all. And I'll do this in green. And then you always put your pencil next to the edge of the designing stylus that's closest to the outside edge of the designing stylus. And when you get into this curvy area here, just flop the stylus over and find the most appropriate curve, like this. And let's see, where am I going here? It's a shallower curve, and you can see that when the designing stylus doesn't allow you to put the seam allowances on as I've done there, you just flop the stylus over and now you line up your stitching line with that edge of the stylus that's closest to the outside edge of the designing stylus. I hope that all made sense, but at least you can see what I'm doing here. And I don't need to do the other side because you get the idea. What you're going to do is add in your 5/8 inch seam allowances like that. And so now when you sew this together like this, now you can nip that in as much as you need to or let it out. My guess is you're going to be nipping it in, perhaps even a little bit more. But that establishes the princess line and on the pants and nips it in underneath your buttocks where you need it to be nipped in there. So now let's take a look at the before and after on the lady who sent me in these photographs. There is the before and there is the after. As we look at how this fits on her buttocks in the after, you can see how much better it fits right underneath her buttocks. Now, yes, there are some little wrinkles and folds there, but one thing that happens is, first of all, these were sewn out of a very lightweight muslin, and that's not always the best fabric to use in testing your pants because there's just not enough body. But the other thing is, these are home shot photographs where the lighting is not great, and so every little wrinkle and nuance shows up. But I think you'll all agree when you look between the before and the after, the fit is far superior. So that's the solution for the flat back side, or let me put it this way, that's one of the solutions for a flat back side. I do know that it puts a seam up the back of your pant leg, but it also is going to give you a far superior fit. And once you've got that done to your pattern, then any other design changes that you make will always have that same shaping in it, and you know your pants are going to fit you well. So do remember, when you sew with SureFit Designs, you can be sure of the fit, and where you're going to find more videos to help you get the very best fit possible is in the SureFit Designs Learning Center in the video library.